Hey everyone, I'm a software engineer. I've been doing full stack development in the industry for the last 8 years. And for the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks now, I've been streaming my Godot open source game engine game development learning journey that I've been doing. So I've built myself out a playground that I can test different features, different game systems, that kind of thing, to get a better sense of how game development works, how I might build some of that into a future game if I decide to do that. And so I've been expanding over the last 6 weeks on my game. And as always, when I start up my stream, I start off by showing a demo. It should all be working. I think I left the game in a relatively good state here. So we find ourselves at a main menu here. I've built out a save system with save files where you can load and delete them. If we start up a new game, you get thrown right into the game here. The basic premise is it's nighttime, it's dark out. You can only see where there's light. So you can see when I move the player around, the trees kind of load in and out. They're enemies right now. Currently the only enemy type is zombie. You have different weapons that you can use. I've built out an inventory system with drag and drop. You can defeat these enemies. They also have inventory that you can pick up and drag and drop between your inventory and their inventory. And the main premise at the moment, and that's kind of the big thing that we're going to be working on this stream, is we're going to be adding a bit more reason to play the game. So we're going to be adding some objectives. And right now what I'm thinking is having basically 7 items that you need to go find, and then something will happen once you find those 7 items. But right now the difficulty is kind of scaled based on how far away you are from the spawn point. So I've built out a chunking system that basically allows for kind of randomized procedural generation of terrain as well as enemies, and I have chests in the game, and so eventually I'll be adding different objectives out there, and different like chunks can have like safe zones and maybe some NPCs that you can buy things from and whatnot. But the basic premise is that the further away you get from spawn, the stronger the enemies get, the faster they get, and the more that spawn. And so as you go out, there needs to be you need to be able to pick up more powerful items, more powerful weapons. That's not something I've fully built into the game yet, but we have a whole weapon system so we can add more items. One of the other things I want to do relatively soon, probably not in the stream, maybe later in the stream, but definitely in the next couple streams, is start to work on a more advanced weapon system. So currently have the difference between a melee weapon, so like a torch or a sword or a baseball bat, and a ranged weapon, so in this case like a rifle. What I want to start doing is adding the ability to have like more customizable weapons. So rather than it being just a single weapon class, so like a torch or a rifle, building out like a base weapon class. So that might be a rifle, but then on top of that you can change like the muzzle and the magazine and the barrel and the stock and all those kinds of things to make it a little more like you're looking for other things to make yourself stronger, and each of those items attachments will have their own modifiers and ways to make the weapon stronger. Hey Monster, how's it going? So yeah, so what I'm going to work on in this stream is the system for finding those 7 items, which I don't know exactly what will happen when you find all of them, but the basic, pretty much at this point, it'll be impossible to find all of them because you don't have strong enough weapons. So once I get those 7 items findable, so you're going to like find one, then it'll tell you where to go for the second one, all the way up to number 7. Once I get that system built in, then I have to increase the ability for damage output for the player. So that'll be what happens next. Hey Monster, how are you doing? All right, so the way I'm thinking about doing this is having where the locations of these items are be a distance from the spawn point. So we'll have, let's say, like one that's 2 chunks away, the next one will be like 4 or 5 chunks away, so on and so forth, until you get all the way up to those 7 items. And I think what I'll do is there will just be like an arrow or some kind of pointer that tells you where to go for the next one, and then once you find the next one, it'll point to the one after that. So I think it should be a relatively straightforward process to build this out, and I'll just have like an auto load singleton that'll let me kind of set where those items are and generate it randomly based on where the like how far away it is from spawn. What app did I use to make the art for the game? So I've pulled some things from itch.io. So there's a website called itch.io that has game assets that you can, some are free, some are paid. So I've pulled some things from there. Some of the other assets I've created in a Steam app called Aseprite, or Asprite. I don't know exactly how you pronounce it. And then other assets I've just created within the game. So like all the inventory stuff is just very basic drawing within the game. I'm using Godot's like UI control nodes to do this. The zombies and the player are assets I pulled from itch.io. I just quickly drew these trees in Asprite. Same with the light source. And then I've added, the lighting system in based on Godot's lighting system there. And then the dead zombie I also drew myself. And then the background is also, I think I drew that myself, but it's basically just like a 16 by 16 or maybe 32 or 64 by 64 tile map that's just overlaid across the whole game. So eventually I'll get to, making that a little better. And then the weapons, those assets change on the player as well. Need to make that look prettier, but for now it's functional. I pulled those from itch.io. But mostly what I'm trying to do right now is build out game, like core functionality, build out the game, and worry about how it looks later. So all of these assets are subject to change in the future. Yeah, I care less about how it looks right now and more about how it functions. Okay, so we have our game manager, which honestly doesn't do that much right now. It just handles setting some of the like general like playthrough type data, keeping track of the player so it's accessible from different scenes and scripts. Handles the game over state. I don't know if this is used, the zombie killed function is used anymore, so I can probably get rid of that. And it does a couple like inventory related things and gives the player experience when you kill an enemy, and starts a new game. So I probably don't even need to create a separate singleton for this. I can worry about that, or like if I need to split that out later, I can. But essentially what we want to do is have a either an array or an object of 7 elements that essentially say the positions of the next item to collect. And we'll need to obviously save that, make sure that that's stored across saves, and we will need some way to display it on the player, just to say like you've collected, X number of items, and then also a scene to show that item as well as a way to pick it up. So all things we've done before, all things we've built into the game so far, just a matter of implementing it now. So let's start out with choosing the locations of these items, and then we can go about actually displaying them. But choosing locations and saving, that's the first thing we're going to work on here. So I think we'll use an object because that'll allow us to store the game or the position, whether or not the player has collected that item, and then also it'll tell us which item is next in the chain. So we can create Let's see, where's my ready function? Oh, here it is. Let me just clean this up a little bit. I don't think I need this is day stuff anymore. This was like an older a legacy thing I had in the game when there was like a day and night cycle when I was messing around like very early on, but now it shouldn't be necessary. So let's see if this breaks anything when I remove it. I also don't think this is used anymore. Let's just add a quick getter and setter for the player, because that's the pattern we've been using here. We'll do the same for hovered inventory. Probably don't need this toggle day night cycle either. Okay. So we'll have a variable. Let's just call it objectives for now, and that's subject to change. And so what we'll do, so we'll have a to-do here to load objectives from save file. But for now, we'll just implement the creating the objectives if they don't exist in a save file. So we'll say for I in rain, wait a sec. I thought there was a for I in rain. Okay, now I'm confused. Why isn't that typing? Weird. Okay, so that should just work, but I confused myself. For I in range, we'll say 7. We'll say objectives of I equals, and we'll make another array. We'll say the global position is, for now, we'll just have say I plus, or I, whoops, we'll just do like I times 100, just so we can get a sense of this. And then game get is day and base game manager get is day. Oh, chunk testing. Great, so that all still works. And we should see the objectives printed out. So we've got objective 0 to 6 with a global position and a has been collected variable. So that's great. Then we can so in the game world, how do you import the animated pixel art from Sprite to Godot? So I'm not using any animated pixel art at the moment, but there are some actually really good tutorials on doing that on YouTube. I'm not as familiar with it as other people are, but I would recommend watching. There's a really good set of tutorials that a creator called Heartbeast has created. When I was getting into game dev originally, and Godot specifically, I followed the Godot action RPG series here from Heartbeast. But that's in Godot 3.5, and they've updated it to Godot 4. I think we're at 4.3 right now. So there are a few tutorials that he's done more recently that I think would be probably more relevant nowadays. So probably this like Godot 4 platformer, or maybe the space shooter. I'm sure it has, because it's all like pixel art. I'm sure they have animated sprites in there that you can use. But I think to answer your question, how would you like export it from a sprite to Godot? If I pull up a sprite here, you should just be able to export like a sprite sheet, and then within Godot you can adjust. You can like figure out how big the sprite sheet is, like how many pixels wide each animation frame is, and then from there you can build animation trees. But I'm not doing that in my game currently, so I'm not gonna be super helpful there. Oh, I think I messed up this. Let's see if I can get a better. I actually don't know that I have. Oh, here we go. Okay, so like this isn't a good example because it's just a bunch of different sprites put into one sprite sheet. But if you had an animation set of animations, usually they're in like on the same horizontal line, and then you have a number of like H frames and V frames that you would set to determine like which animations are part of which animation trees, and then you can select those and do different things with them. All right, so let's just display something. Maybe we'll use a chest scene to start. So this is just for testing, but we can say chest scene. So we just want to show, like, make sure that the objective items are showing up where we expect them to. Why is this? I think maybe hold on. I don't know if this is connected to. I don't know why this isn't. Why isn't this like auto loading for me? Okay, I think I've got an issue here with. Here we go. Okay, now the language server is working. We should be able to pull in the chest scene here. To do remove for testing purposes only. Yeah, no problem, monster. All right, so then we will grab the objectives from the game manager. So we'll say for key in, I guess actually we can do just for value in game manager dot objectives dot values. We will create a chest. Instantiate a chest. We will set its global position equal to value dot get global position with a default value of just vector 2.0. It should exist, but that's just for safety, and then we'll add it to the scene here. So now we should see one at 0, 0, 100, 100, 200, 200, etc., all the way up to 600, 600. So we can start the game and just make sure. Yes, so we do see them all in a line here, displaying properly. Obviously, this isn't what we're going to show. We'll have a different scene for it, although we could use a chest and have it be an item, which isn't... It's actually not a crazy idea, but then it takes up item slots, and I don't think we want to do that. So, because inventory is somewhat limited at the moment. So let's leave this as is for the moment. And now we will work on the logic for handling where these global positions are randomized. So we'll say so we want it to essentially be an X distance away from the spawn point. So we essentially want to pick a point on a circle around the spawn that's a certain radius away. So we can actually enlist ChatGPT to help us with this. So write a function in Godot or GD script that picks a point on a circle X radius away from 0, 0, from the middle of the circle. In this case, that's position 0, 0. And this is like one of the best use cases for ChatGPT, in my opinion, is just writing this kind of function. So we can, let's actually create another script here. So let's create a folder called objectives. And within this, we'll create a script called like setup objectives. And in here, so we'll say class name, setup objectives. We will, have this function get point on circle. And let's just read through what this does. So it takes the radius, it gets an angle, it gets the X and Y, and then it returns that. So, that's a very straightforward solution. So we can get the point on the circle doing that. And that might honestly be all we need to do here. So we can say setup objectives equals setup objectives dot new. And then the global position here can be setup objectives dot get, what was it called? Get point on circle. And then we'll say the radius is I times 1000. And so then we should see these positions be spread out. So if we start a new game here, the first one's going to be 0, 0. The second one here is negative 740, 672. So if we were to go back into the game here, hit continue. So negative 740. So the second one is going to be wait, is it behind this tree or? It's not this, is it? What was it? Oh, it readjusted. Okay, it was negative 32, 999. Oh, okay, so it's this one. It is this one. Great. And so basically what we'll do is point the player to the next one, and then they'll have to go find it. I think we'll probably have to increase the scale here a little bit, but that'll allow the player to go around and find these objectives. Okay, great. So we've set up these objectives for... Okay, so if is new game. This is where we want to actually set up the objectives, and then otherwise to do load in objectives. Okay, so now we want to, we have chunk testing. We have handle save here. So we have this function called save game metadata. So this is where we should handle saving the objective data. So as you see, we're saving like the playthrough, the last save time is active. Don't know what that's for exactly. I can't remember. And so then we want to say, I think we can actually just do like config file. Let's update this. I don't know why I was doing camel case for all of these. Say config file. Dot set value. We'll do metadata section. And let's add objectives key. Just call it objectives. Down here, do objectives key, and then set it to game manager dot objectives. So I think I want to make one minor change here. So rather than storing objectives as a object on the game manager, I think I want to create the objectives within setup objectives. And I actually think I want to just change the name of this to objectives rather than setup objectives. So here we'll have I actually don't even think we need to do that in ready, but what we can do is say objectives equals objectives dot new, and from here within this we'll have objectives, this an array like this. We'll say just have load objectives, which takes in the playthrough ID. So hold on, let me check one thing. So load game metadata. Okay, so we have this function called load game metadata, which is called, let's see, get list of load game metadata. Interesting. Do we not have, I thought we called, I guess everything is, okay, so we're like setting the playthrough ID through the load, okay, I see what's going on here. All right, so we'll have a function called load objectives, which will actually handle loading in everything. So rather than this happening in the, whoops. Rather than this happening in the ready function. And let's update the name of this to, whoops, hold on. To just objectives. We can delete this old file. Great, so I'll paste this in. So we'll say playthrough ID is new game is a Boolean. So if it's a new game, we want to load these objectives in. Say self.objectives. What are you yelling about? Setup objectives. What is setup? Okay, self.getPoint on circle. Don't need that. All right, and then we'll load in the objectives here. And you're yelling because, okay, because you're not using playthrough ID yet. So here we'll say self.objectives dot load objectives self.playthrough ID and self.is new game. So I think that should work. So we can just print the playthrough ID here for the moment. Okay, so then if we continue the game, yeah, we're gonna get an error, non-existent function values, right? Because we're in chunk testing, we're trying to grab game manager.objectives when in reality it's going to be game manager.objectives.objectives.values. And actually, let's call this objectives manager. So I think this should fix it. Invalid get index objectives on base. Oh, because again, on game manager, we say objectives.load when it's really objectives manager. Invalid get index objectives. Okay, again, we updated this and didn't do it in the save manager where we're actually saving the objectives themselves. So it's game manager.objectives manager.objectives. Okay. Great, so these got one at 0, 0. So negative 986 and negative 161. I actually think... Oh yeah, so it does... Okay, it does show up there. So that's interesting. Wasn't totally expecting that, but maybe I should have been. Shouldn't have been a new game, but either way, let's just print that out. Oh, it does think it's a new game. Is that because it gets set after the fact? So hold on. If I like load from there. Okay, it still thinks it's a new game. So clearly his new game is getting set after the fact. Where are we setting this? Okay, so we don't want to do this in the ready function then. We want to do this in maybe we want to do it in save manager actually when we're loading. Okay, we need a way that says okay, it's really when I guess okay, load most recent save. Wait, did I remove the ability to like load, so 2BD? No, that loads that in, okay. Are we not setting the playthrough ID though? No, save directory. Okay, I can't remember how we load then. Let's go into load menu. Oh no, we do it in here. Okay, yeah. So set playthrough ID. So it's really after this point, handle loading in any game related, any global game related metadata here. So this is where we can do this. We can get rid of the ready function. Okay, so now I think we're probably gonna see yeah, okay, so the chests don't load in now, which is what is expected. Okay, so it's not a new game. The objectives don't load in, which is again expected. Great. So we have save game metadata and we need load game metadata. So we can say objectives equals config file. Actually, we should assert that. So this is going to break all the old save files, so we can go ahead and delete all of them. We'll say config file, and again, I'm doing the camel case for this for whatever reason. So let's just update that. So we want to assert that config file excuse me, that dot get value of metadata section objectives key does not equal null. Objectives must exist when loading in a save file. And we can do the same thing, get value, metadata section, objectives key, and then we can return objectives. And then in the objectives, as we're loading through the playthrough ID, I think save manager, okay, load game metadata takes a path, which I don't love. What if we passed in, instead of the directory path, what if we just passed in the playthrough ID? So what is save path? Okay, yeah, so we should be able to say, to update this to playthrough ID, and then save, yeah, or we could just actually say path equals save manager dot get, what was it? Get save path. Oops. Okay. Cool. What am I pressing when that happens? Why is that happening? This should be... It's very weird. One of my key bindings is doing a weird thing. Where were we? We were here. Oh, right. So we have... Nope. Get save path. Plus... playthrough ID. And then... What are you yelling about? I guess we'll call that PID instead. Objectives, we can say metadata equals save manager dot load game metadata with the playthrough ID. I think I'm realizing I didn't update this, so that's not directory path. We just pass in the dir name. Does this get used anymore? Yes. Okay. I think that should be fine. So now back in objectives. Okay, we get the metadata. We say var o equals metadata dot get objectives. And really, honestly, we should just say self dot objectives equals that. And that should load them in. So now if we go to load in an old save file, objectives must exist when loading in a save file. That's expected. So now we need to delete all our old save files. Hey Shadow, how's it going? I'm adding some objectives to the game. So to give the player something to do. Oh shoot, now I need to... I lost the... What's going on here? Oh no, there we go. It was in my history. Okay, so I should delete all these. So boot up, start a new game. Okay, so we don't see an objective at 0, 0. So that's not right. So clearly load objectives didn't, let's see. It doesn't seem like this was called. Because this only happened on the, when you load in, that only happens when you load in. So we need, let's see. Let's go to main menu. And when we start a new game, we just load into chunk testing. No, we actually have a function called start new game. Okay, so in start new game, we also want to load the objectives. And really, actually, no, this should be okay. Load new game, global data here. Okay, so that old save file I think is going to be broken. So let's start a new game. Okay, great. So we've got one at 0, 0. I assume this is also one of the objectives. Yeah, because it's an empty chest. Great. Okay, so we've got the objectives loading in as expected. So now we should be able to continue and see it's also there. And then again, start a new game. And we've got this first one here. Great. Okay. So we've got all of that working. Saving and loading. So let's go back to objectives real quick and adjust. Actually, we can just leave the first one at 0, 0 for now. We will adjust that to be something else later though. Okay, let's create a new scene. We'll just call it objective. And from here, we will add a sprite 2D. For now, let's give it just a random texture. Could just make it look like the old lamppost, which I think is fine. And then we want to add a let's see, I added a generic maybe it wasn't generic, hold on. Was it? No. So there's a way to, it's like on a dead zombie. Oops. How am I doing the, oh, it's the inventory area scene, inventory area. Okay, so that's not quite what we're looking for. So this is just like a, what's the script look like? Yeah, so it's more related to an inventory, but it should be easy enough for us to just add a collision or like an area 2D to this objective. So objective area, then we need to add a collision shape 2D, and we'll set that shape to a circle, make it a little bit bigger than the sprite itself. We want it to sit on the same mask layers as the, so sit on 2 should be fine. And then we want to connect. So let's add a script called objective. Let's also actually go back to the objectives class and call this objectives manager. So we do need to then go into game manager and update this to objectives manager and objectives manager. Great. I don't know that that's being used anywhere other than that, so that's okay. So let's go back to objective here. You can call this just class name objective. And we will add a body entered as well as body exited. So we essentially just want to check if that body is the player. Actually, we don't even need a body exited, I don't think. And we can make this a, the player doesn't need to interact with this at all to make something happen. So if body is, excuse me, player. So now we need to go into objectives, the objective manager, and have a function that, so mark objective as collected, and we'll give it an ID. So we'll have to update this. So we'll say like ID is I. Let's actually just do string of I. And okay, that should be fine. And then mark objective as collected. So we'll say self.objectives. So actually, if not self.objectives, no, we'll do assert self.objectives.get I. It's not equal null. Objective must exist. What are you yelling about? ID. Then we'll say self.objectives ID dot, is there, I guess, can we just do like dot has been collected equals true? This may or may not work. Let's also go into save manager real quick as we'll just handle save get called. Okay, it does happen on the save, but okay, great. So that's expected. Okay, so in objectives, we now have a function that marks an objective as collected. So now in objective, so if the body is a player, we can say game manager dot objectives manager dot mark objective as collected and pass in an ID. So we need to have an ID, which is a string. That'll get instantiated to an empty string. So we have a getter and a setter. So this needs to, so before this is added to the scene tree, we want to assert that ID does not equal the empty string. ID must be set before objective is added to scene tree. So now we can, let's see. So we want to mark the objective as collected, and then we also want to say self.queueFree because we want it to disappear. So now in, what is it, chunk testing, I think, when we're adding, so instead of adding a chest scene, we will do objective scene. This preload objective scene here, and then we can say var objective equals objective scene dot instantiate objective dot global position objective dot ID equals value dot get ID. And then we can add the objective to the scene tree. Now we also then need to update the position here. So rather than the first one being at 0, 0, let's instead say self.getPoint on circle I plus 1 times 1,000. So it won't spawn at 0, 0. And yeah, I think that should be... Okay, so let's print out when we mark an objective as collected. Let's just print out collected objective. Oops. Plus ID. And then we also can just print out the all of our objectives here. So print self.objectives. Oh, has the entire stream been? Yep. Cool. All right, what's up? I'm back. I think the entire stream was on the wrong internet I had here, which means that it was probably pretty choppy for most of it. All right, what's up? I'm back. I think the entire stream was on the wrong internet. All right, let's see how choppy it is. Yeah, it's been pretty choppy. Also, I have chapped lips, so that's why I'm messing with them so much, unfortunately. Okay, now we're on the correct internet with the correct upload speed and latency. Now an hour into the stream, but oh well. You live and learn. Okay, great. So... mark objective as collected, it should disappear, and we should be good. You thought it was on your end? No, definitely on my end, unfortunately. Thanks for bearing with me though, Shadow. Okay. So let's start a new game. Too few arguments for marked objective is collected. Expected at least 1, but received 0. Okay, I don't know why that was called already. But let's see. So we've got objective. Right, we need to pass in self.id. Also, this we should be theoretically shouldn't have been triggered yet. I don't know why it was. Or maybe it was a compile time error. Okay, so this first objective is gonna be somewhere close by. We will add a way to find them more easily. Hold on one sec. I think stream should still be fine, but my OBS is just showing. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's see. The first one's at 26,999. So it's this way. All right, there it is. And so if we are to, great, so theoretically that should have been collected. We say collected objective 0, then has been collected is true. Great. So then if we load the game again, this should work. And we should also see objectives. Yeah, has been collected as true, so it loaded in properly. Great. Okay, that's all working well now. So now let's add the logic that grabs the next objective to be collected, and adds a UI element to show where the user should go. Great. Okay. So we can go to objectives here and say, let's have a function called get next objective, which will return, I guess, a dictionary. That's fine. I'll just return this object. So we can say keys is self.objectives.keys, and we want to sort. I think this should sort by actually. Maybe we do custom sort just to be sure, which should take in a function. Hold on. Using a custom method with 2 elements, A and B. Okay, so we can say sort objectives, say A and B. I think does it want to return a Boolean or, yeah, a Boolean. Assert that A Actually, A and B are just strings. So sort objective IDs is what we can call it. Oops. Why isn't this? Whoa, that's weird. Okay. IDs, so A is a string, B is a string. Don't need to assert anything. If parse, actually I think it's just int of A is greater, less than int B, return true, otherwise return false. So sort custom, self.sort objective IDs. And we don't want to, just want to pass in the callable functions. We've got the keys, so for key in keys, we just want to, if self.objectives of key dot has been collected equals false, we can just return self.objectives key otherwise we will basically want to throw an error here. Well, not necessarily throw an error. I guess we can throw an error for now. So to do don't always throw error, but we should implement this later. So assert that, we'll just say 1 equals 2. To do implement when all objectives have been collected. Great, and you're gonna yell because why? It's always false. Okay, so we'll say A equals 1, assert that A equals 2, which should always error. And then I guess to satisfy the compiler, we can just return an empty dictionary, but it should never get there. All right, so actually we can just return the key for get next objective rather than a dictionary. Let's just return a string, which will be the ID. And then we can store next objective equals, I guess, an empty string. Sorry, next objective, set that. And then we can have a function. No, you know what? Actually, we're going to take that back. And next objective is going to be... Okay, so get next objective. Okay, I think that's fine. So when we mark an objective as collected, we then want to so next objective is an empty. So self.get next objective. Actually, let's call this set next objective. Yeah, okay. Next objective ID instead will be a string. Okay, so we'll have set next objective. So self.next objective ID equals set next objective. This needs to return a string. Great. And then we'll also have a function called get next objective. And this will actually return the, let's see, do we need, I think we just need the global position actually. Get next objective location. So this will return a vector 2. Let's assert that self.objectives, oops, dot get self.next objective ID does not equal null. Next objective must exist on objectives. Then we can return self.objectives. And actually, we should also then assert that, okay, hold on. Our objective equals self.objectives.get self.next objective ID. We can instead say assert that objective does not equal null. Let's assert that objective dot global position. We can say dot get global position does not equal null. Objective must have a global position, and then we can return objective dot get global position. Great, so we will set the next objective when we mark one as collected. So when we load the game in, we can automatically set the next objective. Suppose we also want to do the same. Okay, we want to do the same actually every time we load objectives. Okay. So then we need a way for so the game manager, let's see, is the game manager so we've got the next objective ID. Okay, so where do we want this to live? So if we have a little, Game UI icon. I guess it can just be on the player, actually. So let's open up player. I guess it doesn't need to really be a UI element per se. It can just be like a sprite that exists on the player. So maybe we add a new sprite on the player for now, and we can certainly update this to be its own scene. We don't want to change type. We want to rename it to objective pointer. And here we can, from a texture perspective, let's draw an arrow real quick. So let's open up a sprite. By 64 is fine. So let's just quickly make a arrow, and I honestly think there's a arrow, something arrow here. Maybe not actually. Okay, well, should be easy to do anyway. So we can do like this needs to be filled, and then just do line tool. Draw something like that. And then fill this in. Actually, hold on. Let's take this. And is there a way to, yeah, move it down? Because we actually would rather it, hold on. That's pretty close. Hold on. Okay, I botched that slightly, so let's draw a line from there to that point, and there to that point. Why are those different? It's funny. Oh, because these are different. Okay. All right, let's start over actually. Take our align tool, draw from there to there, there to there. There down. I think that's the same location. There to there, there to there, there to there, there to there, and then fill in that. Okay, that looks good enough. Let's go ahead and save. We'll call this arrow, objective arrow. Go ahead and save that and then export it as a PNG to the same location. Great. So we'll come in here. The objective pointer will be assets objective arrow.png. And so we want to place the location of this objective arrow based on where the next objective is. So in physics process, actually, we're going to be using the objective, this get point on circle function on the player too, interestingly enough, because we're going to place it a certain distance away from the player. So this function can maybe live for now on Game Manager. And we can maybe add a singleton later that allows us to use that. Elsewhere, but we can say game manager to get point on circle. So we're going to want to use this on the player as well. We'll have a function called position objective arrow. So we will, I'll return void. We want to get the, we'll call this objective arrow. So we'll say var objective arrow scene. It's objective arrow. So we'll get the objective position equals game manager dot objectives manager dot get next, what's it called? Get next objective location. And it's not going to be, we don't necessarily want to do this on every physics process. So we might want to store this location on the player just to not need to keep calling game manager every frame. But for now, this will be fine. So then we also want to, oh, actually, hold on. Game manager. So get point on circle returns a random angle. So, okay, we want get random point on circle, and then we also want get point on circle, which will take in a radius, but also an angle. And return a vector 2. So now we need to go back into objectives, and where we have get point on circle, we want get random point on circle. So then in player, we need to determine the angle. So we can use ChatGPT for this. Determine angle between two vector 2's. Okay, so there's an angle to function. So we can get the angle equals yeah, no, this should be fine. So self dot global position dot angle to, and then objective position. The objective arrow position should then be game manager dot get point on circle, where the radius, we'll just call it 20, and the angle is that. And then we can say objective arrow scene dot look at, right? That's a function. So we want it to look at the objective position, and we want to say the objective arrow scene dot maybe I don't know if it's position or global position. Actually, we probably just want it to be dot position equals objective arrow position. And okay, let's give this a try. So in the physics process, handle objective arrow. So we'll say self dot, okay, so if game manager dot objectives manager dot next objective ID does not equal empty, we'll say self dot position objective arrow self dot position objective arrow. All right, let's give this a try. Trying to get a return value of a method that returns void. What returns void? Set next objective. Okay. That shouldn't return void. What do you mean? Oh, self dot next objective ID equals. I don't feel like that should have errored. Trying to get a return value. What do you mean? Load objectives. Strange. Let's try this again. Starting a game. I'm trying to get a return value of a method that returns void. Oh, sort custom returns void. Oh, that's unhelpful. Is it really? Okay, so let's instead do sorted. Oh, I guess we can just do keys.sort custom then and do it that way. All right, so that looks very awkward because, well, first of all, this is not getting us the right objective here, I don't think. Because there's an objective here that we're not... It almost seems like it's giving us... Oh, this is probably giving us the last objective because our sorting algorithm is backwards. Okay, so let's start a new game. Now the first one should be this one, so I don't know why it's still giving us... Okay, let's print out objective order. Okay, objective order 6. Why is it only printing out? Oh, because it thinks that... no, okay, wait. Maybe it was correct the first time. So, okay, objective order is 0. So... Strange. I would expect that to be the... first one. Oh, I think because the... let's see, the objective arrow needs to be rotated 90 degrees because I think it's... Hold on. Transform rotation... Set it to 90. No. Maybe 180. It's expecting it to be... Hold on. Maybe the texture itself here needs to be rotated. Okay, so let's go to... Let's delete this. So it needs to be removed from this texture, and then we'll go back to Sprite. Oops. Okay, let's select this. Hopefully there's a way to rotate. There is. Okay, so save that, and then again, export it as a PNG. So let's give this another try. Let's see if this works. Okay, so that seems to be pointing, yeah, there we go. Okay, so that seems to be pointing to this objective here. So we grab it and it goes to the next one. So we want to obviously make this smaller, not rotate with the player. But okay, that's working as intended. So let's make the objective arrow smaller. Just make the scale 0.5. Wait, negative 0.5. Oh. Okay, let's actually do 0.25. And then we want it to be a little bit further from the player. And so let's make this 200. That might be too far away, honestly. Oh, but we always want it to be in between the... okay, so we don't... The position is wrong. So we... Hold on. Let's make the global position be equal to the objective arrow position. Okay, that's definitely not right either. Okay, we were doing this for 6 cents. It was always in between the, okay, so it's, okay, so we don't want get point on self-dot global position plus, okay, to start, let's just try doing this for a second. So objective position minus self.global position divided by 2. So it's basically the same algorithm here as 6 cents. Okay, so it's halfway between the player and the objective, but as you can see, it's gonna go way off the screen. So we only want it to be so far away from the player, so we need to clamp the we need to clamp this to some sensible value. Hold on. Was this pointing in the right direction too? It was. Okay, so that's halfway between. Can you clamp a vector though? Oh, you can. So you have a value and then a minimum and a maximum. I don't know if this is gonna work for a vector, but what if we said vector 2, negative 200, negative 200, and then vector 2, 200, 200. Let's see if this works. Okay, so that's not right. It's really the distance 2 that we want to clamp. Okay, which means I still think we want the objective arrow positions. Okay, so this is not right. So it should be self.global position plus objective arrow position. Maybe this will be what we want. No, not quite. Okay, so the angle is clearly wrong. print out what this angle is. Okay, so we need to get the angle and then I feel like this should be right. It's so funky. Okay, so it's, I mean, it's, we essentially need to do this. So I guess, what if we did minus? No, it doesn't make any sense. Oh, wait. Wait. It's close, but why is the angle, like the angle to that objective is, what is this? So maybe this angle 2 isn't working correctly. Do I want the opposite? Do I want objective position angle 2? Self.global position? No. Does the same thing. It's always positioning it. Why is it always positioning it there? Maybe the subjective arrow position thing isn't right. I mean, obviously it isn't right, but so we'll have a look at the objective position. So that's how you place it halfway between. If we want it at most, like a distance of 200 from the player. Maybe we clamp the objective position then. So we say like clamped x equals clamp objective position dot x, like negative 200 to 200, and then we do the same with y. And then instead of objective position here, maybe we do vector 2 of clamped x and clamped y. Would that work? Don't divide it by 2. No, then it's static. Okay, hold on. This is taking me way too long to figure out here. Just gonna ask ChatGPT. How can I get the position of a point between two vectors that's x distance away from one of those points? Okay, if this works, then I should have just gone to ChatGPT to begin with. Okay, get point between two vectors. So start, end, and distance. So we'll say self dot get point between vectors. The start is the current player position, the end is the objective position, and the distance is 200. All right, that works. Okay, I should always go to ChatGPT, although we want it to clamp the value to halfway when the distance is less than x. Okay, so we want this logic now instead. So great. So this should start to shrink towards the player as we get Oh, it jumps. That's interesting. Let's actually have it be if the distance is less than... The actual distance is less than distance times 2. That's when we want it to do the shrinking. So it should happen here. There we go. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. And now we can grab the second objective. And then, great. So you can just keep doing this until you get all the objectives, and then the game will crash because I'm asserting that there are more objectives after this because I don't have a state for what happens after this. All right, so let's now go to the objectives. And we're doing 1,000 as the distance. Now let's update that to be much larger. So let's do like 5,000. So it should take longer to get the... Oh, I continued, didn't I? They should be much further away now. Let's get some ammo here. Build up our ammo reserves. Here we go. Here's the first objective. And that's much further away. We're in... I don't know what chunk we're in exactly, but... All right. Okay, so that's... We've got our objectives working here. And... Now let's add a way to view them in our inventory when you've collected them. So let's have a function on objectives that returns get number of collected objectives so that we can display how many you've collected basically as an element on your inventory. So get number of collected objectives will return an integer, and we'll say count equals 0 for key of self dot. Actually, we can just do value of self dot objectives dot values. If value dot has collected. What's it called? Has been collected. We can say count plus equals 1. Accidentally restarted the song, and we can return count. What are you yelling about? Oh, in. All right, so get number of collected objectives. Then we can come into the player inventory UI here. So now we haven't touched this in a while. So in UI, we have player inventory. What is this doing? Okay, it's instantiating an inventory UI scene, which should be centered. I guess we can actually do this in inventory UI. And then there just won't be any for zombies or any enemies. I was kind of thinking of just having it be like just on the right side here, kind of in a vertical positioning that goes down. So as you get more, you just see more there. But maybe we don't. Oh, actually, we can just do it on the game UI. It doesn't need to be. Yeah, let's do that actually. So in game UI, we're doing everything programmatically. So we've got this VBox container. So let's add another child node, which is an HBox container. And what we'll do is give this a height. Don't want it to expand. Where is, okay, custom minimum height, we'll just say it's like 100. It's maybe too big. Let's say 50. And then in game UI here, excuse me, display objectives, return void. Let's grab the call this the objectives container. Objectives container scene equals container player UI elements slash VBox container slash objectives container, and number of collected objectives equals game manager dot objectives manager dot get number of collected objectives. For I in range, number of collected objectives. Hold on. Because what I'm wanting here, let's see. Is there a way to, okay, hold on. Objectives, wait, what did I call it? Objectives container scene. Dot remove child. I just essentially want to be able to call display objectives and have it just display that number of objectives whenever. It'll make everything simpler, and then I don't have to keep track of everything. I guess I could just say, like, objectives is an array. We'll say sprite equals sprite2d.new. Sprite.texture equals, and actually we can objective texture equals preload assets slash object. Oh no, what did I did lamp. I think I did lamp post. So then we do sprite.texture equals sprite texture, no, objective texture. And then self.objectives append sprite, and then objective container scene.add child sprite. And to start, we can say for value in self.objectives, objectives container scene.remove child value. So that'll clear it at the beginning, so we can call self.display objectives at the beginning here. And then also we can call this I guess we can connect a new .connect emit collected objective self.display objectives, and then we now need a new signal here on game manager emit objective. Wait, did I call it collected objective or objective collected? Emit collected objective. Emit collected objective. And we will say so we've got load objectives, then we can say self.emit collected objective.emit. And we can do the same when we load objectives here. And then in objectives, whenever we mark an objective as collected, we can say game manager dot mark objective as, or actually just collected objective. So we can have a function called collected objective that just emits an objective was collected. So I think here, if we go and collect an objective, so just for testing purposes, let's lower the distance we need to go to get to the first one back down to 1,000. Oops. So hopefully we see something happen in the game UI here. We do. Okay, it shows up there, but it's positioned way to the left. So that's fixable. One easy way to do that is just by centering everything. Okay, we collect an objective and it shows up there, but it's freaking out for some reason. It's weird. Okay, let's just collect the second one and see what happens. It's probably being triggered a bunch. Yeah, okay. All right, so we're pretty close to getting that done. How often is this being called? In player, we can remove the prints here. Or what are we printing actually? Oh yeah, printing angle, okay. So we don't need this angle anymore. So it looks like that's only getting called once, so I'm not sure why it's freaking out in the game UI. It might be... That wasn't happening when I wasn't centering it, so maybe it's something to do with that. Okay, so I guess we can, in game UI, just say that the position, this isn't what we want to do long term, but we can we'll say vector 2 of, so the y can be 0, but the x we want to be I times like 20 or something. Let's give this a try. See what it looks like. Not quite. Let's say I times 200. Although maybe because it's in an HBox container, this isn't going to work. Yeah, it seems that's why. Okay. So we'll need to make some updates here, but I think we're at a pretty good point to stop here. I'm getting a little tired. Been streaming for a little over 2 hours. So I'm gonna call it quits here. Thanks for hopping on, everyone that hopped on. Hope you're having a good Monday, and I will catch you all in the next one.